Speak, ladies and gentlemen. There comes a moment in every personandapo's life when they realize that not everyone deserves a seat at their table. Some people inspire you to become stronger, wiser, and more confident. Others drain your energy, question your worth, and leave you doubting yourself. The difference between an ordinary life and an extraordinary one often comes down to one decision: who you allow to influence your mind. Smart people understand something that many learn too late. They know that success is not only about building great habits, itandapos, also about protecting those habits from people who constantly try to tear them down. Every conversation, every relationship, and every environment either fuels your growth or steals your focus. Toxic people often disguise themselves as friends, co-workers, or even family members. They criticize without helping, they complain without changing, they create drama where peace could exist. They expect your attention but never respect your boundaries. If you spend enough time around negativity, eventually it begins to sound like truth. But intelligent people, donandapos, waste their lives trying to change those who refuse to change themselves. They understand that arguing with someone committed to misunderstanding you is like running on a treadmill. You expend enormous energy but never move forward. The strongest response is rarely the loudest one. Strength is remaining calm when others want a reaction. Strength is choosing peace when others choose conflict. Strength is walking away from conversations that steal your purpose instead of feeding it. Smart people also recognize that boundaries are not walls built out of hate. They are doors with locks, allowing the right people in while keeping harmful influences outside. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it is necessary if you want to become the person you were meant to be. Another lesson they understand is that forgiveness does not always require reconnection. You can let go of resentment without giving someone unlimited access to your life again. Healing, dos nandapos, mean returning to the same environment that hurt you. It means growing beyond it. The most successful people refuse to let toxic behavior determine their attitude. They donandapos carry bitterness from one conversation into the next. They donandapos allow someone elsandapos's negativity to control their emotions or distract them from their mission. They keep moving forward because they know their future deserves more attention than someone elsandapos's opinion. Life is too short to spend proving your value to people determined not to see it. Your responsibility is nandapos, to convince everyone to appreciate you. Your responsibility is to continue becoming the person your purpose requires. Choose relationships that challenge you to grow. Surround yourself with people who celebrate discipline, integrity, honesty, and courage. Invest your energy where it multiplies instead of where it disappears. Remember this: every minute spent feeding unnecessary conflict is a minute stolen from building the life you truly want. Smart people. Donandapos win by defeating toxic people. They win by refusing to let toxic people define who they become. Toxic people often have one thing in common: they try to make their behavior feel like your responsibility. They criticize your choices, question your abilities, dismiss your achievements, or create unnecessary conflict, hoping you will absorb their negativity as if it defines who you are. Smart people understand an important truth. They recognize toxic behavior for what it is without allowing it to become part of their identity. They know that someone elsandapos, words are often a reflection of that personandapos, mindset, unresolved pain, insecurity, or frustration, rather than an accurate measure of their value. This awareness allows them to stay emotionally steady even when others attempt to pull them into unnecessary drama. Speak. It is easy to take criticism personally, especially when it comes from someone close to you. A harsh comment can linger in your mind for hours, days, or even years if you allow it. But not every opinion deserves a permanent place in your thinking. Intelligent people learn to separate constructive feedback from destructive criticism. Constructive feedback is offered with respect and a genuine desire to help you improve. Toxic criticism, on the other hand, is meant to discourage, control, embarrass, or diminish you. Knowing the difference protects your confidence while keeping you open to growth. Many toxic individuals project their own fears onto others. Someone who doubts themselves may constantly doubt you. Someone who feels unsuccessful may try to minimize your progress. Someone who struggles with insecurity may become jealous whenever you achieve something meaningful. Instead of recognizing these behaviors as personal attacks, wise people see them as signs of unresolved issues within the other person. This perspective doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it prevents unnecessary emotional damage. Recognizing toxic behavior also means paying attention to patterns instead of isolated incidents. Everyone has difficult days and moments of frustration. One disagreement does not make someone toxic. However, when negativity becomes consistent, when disrespect becomes normal, and when manipulation replaces honest communication, the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Smart people trust these patterns rather than making endless excuses for them. They understand that repeated actions reveal character far more clearly than occasional apologies. Emotional intelligence allows you to pause before reacting. Instead of immediately defending yourself or trying to prove your worth, you learn to observe the situation objectively. Ask yourself whether the criticism is based on facts or emotion. Consider whether the conversation is productive or simply another attempt to create conflict. This small pause creates space for wisdom to replace impulsive reactions. Often, the strongest response is remaining calm while refusing to participate in unnecessary arguments. Confidence plays a major role in avoiding personal offense. When your sense of worth is built on your values, discipline, and purpose, it becomes much harder for someone else's negativity to shake your foundation. You no longer seek constant approval because you understand your identity isn't determined by public opinion. You know your strengths, acknowledge your weaknesses, and continue improving regardless of what others choose to believe about you. Another important lesson is refusing to carry someone else's emotional burden. Toxic people often spread negativity because they want company in their frustration. If you absorb every complaint, insult, or accusation, you become weighed down by problems that were never yours to carry. Smart people show empathy without accepting responsibility for another person's unhealthy behavior. They can care about people while still protecting their own emotional well-being. Choosing not to take toxic behavior personally is not a sign of weakness or indifference. It is a decision to protect your focus. Preserve your peace and continue growing despite the negativity around you. Instead of allowing toxic people to define your emotions, you define your own response. That is where real strength begins. And that is how emotionally intelligent people continue moving forward without allowing someone else's darkness to dim their own light. Protecting your peace is not about avoiding people or isolating yourself from the world. It is about making intentional decisions regarding who has access to your time, energy, and emotional well-being. Smart people understand that every relationship influences their mindset in some way. Some relationships encourage growth, provide support, and inspire confidence, while others constantly create stress, confusion, and self-doubt. The difference often comes down to healthy boundaries. Boundaries are not acts of rejection. They are acts of self-respect. They define what you will accept, what you will not tolerate, and how you choose to protect the life you are building. Many people hesitate to set boundaries because they fear disappointing others or being seen as selfish. They say yes when they want to say no. They allow repeated disrespect because they hope people will eventually change. Over time, this habit leads to exhaustion and resentment. Smart people realize that constantly sacrificing their peace to satisfy everyone else is neither healthy nor sustainable. They know that respecting others should never require abandoning respect for themselves. Healthy boundaries begin with recognizing your own values. When you are clear about what matters most, it becomes easier to decide what deserves your attention. If honesty is important to you, you naturally distance yourself from people who constantly lie. If growth is your priority, you become more selective about spending time with those who complain without taking responsibility. Boundaries are easier to maintain when they are connected to your purpose instead of your emotions. One of the most important boundaries involves protecting your time. Time is the one resource that cannot be replaced once it is gone. Toxic people often demand endless attention, create unnecessary drama, or expect immediate responses to every problem they encounter. Smart people understand that not every issue deserves their involvement. They choose carefully where to invest their energy because they know that every unnecessary distraction takes attention away from meaningful goals, valuable relationships, and personal development. Healthy boundaries also require clear communication. Rather than expecting others to guess what is acceptable, Wise people express their expectations calmly and respectfully. They do not need to argue or become aggressive to make their position known. A simple, respectful statement is often enough. Whether it involves declining an invitation, refusing to participate in gossip, or asking someone to speak respectfully, confident communication reinforces self-respect while reducing unnecessary conflict. Another important aspect of protecting your peace is accepting that not everyone will understand your boundaries. Some people become uncomfortable when they can no longer manipulate your kindness or take advantage of your availability. They may accuse you of changing, becoming distant, or acting differently. In reality, you are simply refusing to continue unhealthy patterns. Smart people understand that discomfort from others does not automatically mean they have done something wrong. Sometimes, resistance is evidence that a necessary boundary is finally being established. Maintaining boundaries also requires consistency. A boundary that changes every time someone pressures you quickly loses its effectiveness. Toxic individuals often test limits repeatedly, hoping persistence will eventually weaken your resolve. Intelligent people remain consistent because they understand that every time they compromise their values without good reason, they teach others that those values are negotiable. Consistency builds trust in yourself and communicates that your principles are not temporary reactions but lasting commitments. Protecting your peace also means giving yourself permission to walk away from environments that constantly damage your emotional well-being. Not every relationship can be repaired, and not every conflict must be resolved. Sometimes the healthiest decision is creating distance from people whose behavior repeatedly brings negativity into your life. Walking away is not about holding resentment. It is about recognizing that your mental and emotional health deserve protection. When you establish healthy boundaries, you create space for healthier relationships to flourish. You become more present with people who genuinely care about your growth and less consumed by those who drain your spirit. Your confidence grows because your actions begin to reflect your values instead of your fears. Peace is no longer something you hope to find someday. It becomes something you actively protect every day through wise decisions, clear limits, and unwavering self-respect. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing they can change someone who has no desire to change. They invest endless hours giving advice, explaining their feelings, offering second chances, and hoping that one more conversation will finally make a difference. But smart people understand a difficult truth. Lasting change is always a personal decision. No amount of effort, persuasion, or sacrifice can transform someone who refuses to take responsibility for their own behavior. Instead of wasting precious energy trying to fix toxic people, wise individuals focus on becoming stronger, healthier, and more purposeful themselves. Toxic people often repeat the same patterns. They blame others for their mistakes, avoid accountability, manipulate situations to their advantage, and resist honest feedback. Even when confronted with clear evidence, they often find ways to justify their actions or shift the responsibility onto someone else. Smart people recognize these patterns early. They stop expecting different results from someone who continues making the same choices. This does not mean they stop caring about people. It simply means they stop confusing hope with reality. Many people believe that if they love someone enough, support them enough, or remain patient long enough, the other person will eventually become different. While encouragement can inspire growth in someone who genuinely wants to improve, it cannot replace personal responsibility. Growth begins when an individual chooses humility, accepts correction, and commits to change. Without those qualities, even the best advice falls on closed ears. Intelligent people understand this distinction and refuse to carry the burden of someone else's unwillingness to grow. Trying to change toxic people often comes at a hidden cost. Every difficult conversation consumes emotional energy. Every argument steals mental focus. Every disappointment weakens motivation. Over time, you may find yourself thinking more about their behavior than your own goals. Instead of building your future, you become occupied managing someone else's negativity. Smart people recognize that attention is one of life's most valuable resources. They protect it carefully, because whatever receives your attention eventually shapes your mindset. Another lesson wise people learn is that actions speak louder than promises. Toxic individuals may apologize repeatedly, promise improvement, or express regret after every conflict. But genuine transformation is measured by consistent behavior, not emotional speeches. Smart people observe actions over time rather than becoming persuaded by temporary emotions. They understand that trust is rebuilt through repeated acts of integrity, not through repeated explanations. There is also great wisdom in accepting what is beyond your control. You cannot control another person's attitude, choices, or character. You cannot force someone to become honest, respectful, or kind simply because you believe they should be. The only person you truly control is yourself. Your attitude, your responses, your decisions, and your direction remain within your influence. By focusing on these areas, you regain the peace that is often lost when trying to manage someone else's life. Choosing not to change toxic people does not mean becoming cold or uncaring. Speak. Speak it means recognizing the difference between helping and enabling. Helping encourages responsibility and growth. Enabling protects harmful behavior from its natural consequences. Smart people refuse to rescue others from lessons they need to learn for themselves. Sometimes the greatest opportunity for change comes when people experience the results of their own choices without someone constantly shielding them. Walking away from unhealthy relationships is sometimes the wisest decision you can make. It is not an act of hatred, but an act of wisdom. Distance allows you to protect your emotional health, restore your confidence, and redirect your energy toward people who appreciate your presence and respect your values. It creates room for healthier relationships built on trust, honesty, and mutual encouragement. The strongest people are not those who successfully change everyone around them. They are the ones who understand where their responsibility begins and where it ends. They invest their time in personal growth instead of endless conflict. They choose progress over frustration, purpose over distraction, and peace over constant emotional battles. By releasing the impossible task of changing toxic people, they free themselves to become the person they were truly meant to be. One of the greatest signs of intelligence is not how quickly you respond, but how wisely you choose your response. Toxic people often thrive on emotional reactions. They know that if they can make you angry, defensive, or frustrated, they gain control over the conversation. The moment your emotions take over, your ability to think clearly begins to fade. Smart people understand this dynamic. They refuse to hand over control of their emotions to someone else's behavior. Instead of reacting impulsively, they remain calm, think carefully, and respond with intention rather than emotion. Remaining calm does not mean pretending that hurtful words or unfair treatment do not affect you. It means recognizing that every situation presents a choice. You can react immediately and allow emotions to dictate your actions, or you can pause, collect your thoughts, and decide on a response that aligns with your values. This brief moment of self-control often determines whether a difficult situation becomes worse or begins to move toward resolution. Wise people understand that a few seconds of patience can prevent months of regret. Toxic individuals frequently use emotional manipulation as a strategy. They may raise their voice, insult your character, twist your words, or provoke arguments over insignificant issues. Their goal is often to pull you into an emotional battle where logic disappears and conflict grows. Smart people recognize these patterns early. Instead of matching anger with anger, they choose composure. They understand that refusing to participate in unnecessary conflict is not weakness. It is discipline. Calmness also creates clarity. When emotions are running high, people often say things they do not truly mean or make decisions they later regret. Anger narrows your perspective and encourages impulsive choices. Fear causes hesitation. Frustration clouds judgment. By staying calm, you give yourself the opportunity to evaluate the situation objectively. You begin asking better questions. Is this argument worth my energy? Is this criticism helpful or simply destructive? Will my response improve the situation or make it worse? These questions become easier to answer when your emotions no longer control your thinking. Self-control is built through practice, not perfection. Everyone experiences moments of irritation, disappointment, and anger. The difference is that emotionally intelligent people do not allow those feelings to become permanent attitudes. They acknowledge their emotions without allowing those emotions to dictate their behavior. They understand that feelings are temporary, but the consequences of careless words and actions can last much longer. Speak. This awareness encourages thoughtful responses instead of impulsive reactions. Another reason smart people remain calm is because they know that emotional reactions often reward toxic behavior. When someone seeks attention through conflict and receives exactly the dramatic response they wanted, the unhealthy pattern continues. By refusing to react emotionally, you remove the reward that often fuels manipulation. Silence, patience, or a calm response can be far more powerful than a lengthy argument. Sometimes the strongest statement you can make is choosing not to engage in a battle that has no meaningful outcome. Confidence also plays an important role in emotional control. People who know their worth do not feel the need to defend themselves against every criticism or false accusation. They understand that their character is built over time through consistent actions, not through winning every disagreement. Because their confidence comes from within, they are less dependent on other people's opinions. This inner security allows them to remain steady, even when others attempt to provoke them. Staying calm also protects your relationships with people who genuinely matter. A single emotional outburst can damage trust, create misunderstandings, or leave lasting emotional scars. Smart people realize that preserving respect is often more valuable than proving a point. They choose words that build understanding instead of creating deeper division. Even during difficult conversations, they remain respectful because they know that how they communicate is just as important as what they communicate. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen emotional discipline. Each time you choose patience over anger, wisdom over impulse, and self-control over emotional reaction, you become stronger. You begin to realize that true power is not found in controlling other people, but in controlling yourself. When you refuse to let toxic behavior determine your attitude, you protect your peace, preserve your dignity, and continue moving forward with confidence, regardless of the negativity surrounding you. The people you spend the most time with have a powerful influence on the person you become. Their attitudes shape your thinking, their habits influence your actions, and their beliefs often affect the way you see yourself and the world around you. Smart people understand that success is rarely achieved in isolation, but they also recognize that not every relationship deserves a permanent place in their lives. They intentionally choose relationships that encourage growth, honesty, respect, and purpose, instead of remaining attached to people who consistently bring negativity, conflict, or emotional exhaustion. Negative attachments are often difficult to recognize because they usually develop slowly. At first, the relationship may seem supportive or exciting, but over time, you begin to notice a pattern. Instead of celebrating your progress, the other person minimizes your achievements. Instead of encouraging your goals, they fill your mind with doubt. Conversations leave you feeling drained rather than inspired. You begin questioning your confidence, your decisions, and even your dreams. Smart people pay attention to these emotional patterns because they understand that how you consistently feel around someone often reveals the true health of the relationship. Positive relationships create an entirely different experience. They challenge you to become better without making you feel inadequate. They celebrate your victories without jealousy and offer honest correction without disrespect. These people believe in your potential, even during seasons when you struggle to believe in yourself. They inspire discipline through their example rather than controlling you through criticism. Their presence gives you energy instead of taking it away. Speakwise people understand that surrounding themselves with individuals of integrity creates an environment where personal growth becomes natural. Many people remain attached to unhealthy relationships simply because they fear loneliness. They convince themselves that having the wrong people around is better than having no one at all. However, smart people know that loneliness is temporary, while the long-term effects of toxic relationships can last for years. Constant exposure to negativity gradually lowers confidence, weakens motivation, and distracts you from your purpose. Choosing temporary solitude while building a healthier future is often far wiser than remaining in relationships that repeatedly damage your peace. Another characteristic of positive relationships is mutual respect. Respect means listening without constant judgment, communicating honestly, honoring boundaries, and valuing each other's time and emotions. Smart people refuse to confuse manipulation with love or control with care. They understand that healthy relationships are built on trust, not fear. When respect is missing consistently, the relationship becomes difficult to sustain in a healthy way, no matter how long it has existed. Choosing positive relationships also requires becoming the kind of person you hope to attract. It is easy to expect loyalty, kindness, encouragement, and honesty from others while neglecting to practice those qualities yourself. Intelligent people focus on developing strong character because they know that meaningful relationships are built between people who are both committed to growth. They invest in becoming dependable, compassionate, trustworthy, and emotionally mature. As they improve themselves, they naturally begin attracting others who share similar values. Smart people also understand that every relationship requires evaluation from time to time. They ask whether certain friendships or associations are helping them become the person they want to be or pulling them away from their goals. This reflection is not about judging others harshly, but about taking responsibility for the direction of their own lives. Sometimes the healthiest decision is creating distance from those who repeatedly discourage progress while drawing closer to those who inspire excellence. Positive relationships provide accountability without condemnation. They encourage you to keep your promises, pursue your purpose, and remain faithful to your values, even when life becomes difficult. These relationships become a source of strength during challenges and a reminder that you do not have to face every obstacle alone. Instead of competing with your success, they celebrate it. Instead of feeding your fears, they strengthen your courage. Instead of dwelling on problems, they focus on solutions. Life is too valuable to spend surrounded by people who constantly pull you backward. Every relationship either contributes to your growth or competes with it. Smart people choose companions who make them wiser, stronger, and more resilient because they understand that the quality of their relationships will often determine the quality of their future. By choosing positive relationships over negative attachments, they protect their peace, strengthen their character, and create an environment where purpose, confidence, and lasting success can continue to grow. One of the biggest obstacles to living a meaningful life is becoming too concerned with what other people think. Opinions are everywhere. Some people will encourage you, while others will question your decisions, criticize your efforts, or doubt your potential. If you allow every opinion to influence your direction, you will spend your life chasing approval instead of pursuing your purpose. Smart people understand that purpose gives life direction, while the constant pursuit of validation only creates confusion. They choose to remain committed to their mission, even when others fail to understand it. Speak. Every worthwhile goal will eventually attract criticism. The moment you decide to grow, improve, or step outside your comfort zone, someone may tell you that you are aiming too high or taking the wrong path. This is not because your purpose lacks value, but because people often judge others based on their own experiences, fears, and limitations. Smart people recognize that someone else's opinion is not automatically a reflection of reality. They carefully consider constructive advice, but they refuse to let negativity define their decisions or their future. Purpose acts like a compass during difficult seasons. When you know why you are doing something, temporary criticism becomes much easier to endure. You stop making decisions based on popularity and begin making decisions based on principles. Instead of asking whether everyone approves, you ask whether your actions are moving you closer to the life you want to build. This shift in thinking creates resilience because your motivation comes from within rather than from the changing opinions of those around you. Toxic people often use criticism to distract others from meaningful progress. They may question your abilities, mock your ambitions, or remind you of your past mistakes. Their words are designed to make you doubt yourself and lose confidence. Smart people understand that distractions often arrive disguised as opinions. They refuse to spend valuable time defending every decision or responding to every negative comment. They know that success is built through consistent action, not endless explanations. One of the greatest lessons in life is realizing that you cannot control how others perceive you. You can be honest and still be misunderstood. You can work hard and still be criticized. You can help people and still face rejection. Trying to manage every opinion is an impossible task that steals energy from what truly matters. Smart people let go of this impossible responsibility. They focus on living with integrity because they know that character speaks louder than public approval. Remaining focused on your purpose also requires discipline over distraction. Every minute spent arguing with critics is a minute not spent improving your skills, strengthening your character, or advancing your goals. Wise people understand that their energy is limited, so they invest it carefully. Instead of proving doubters wrong through arguments, they let consistent results become their response. Progress often communicates more powerfully than words ever can. Another important truth is that your purpose will often require difficult choices. You may have to disappoint people who expect you to remain the same. You may need to say no to opportunities that do not align with your values. You may outgrow relationships that once felt comfortable but now hold you back. Smart people accept these challenges because they understand that staying faithful to their purpose sometimes means choosing long-term fulfillment over short-term approval. Confidence grows when your identity is rooted in your values instead of public opinion. When you know who you are and what you stand for, criticism loses much of its power. You stop measuring your worth by compliments or insults because your confidence comes from your commitment to doing what is right. This inner stability allows you to remain calm even when others misunderstand your intentions or question your path. Every successful journey requires focus. There will always be voices trying to redirect your attention, discourage your progress, or convince you to settle for less than your potential. Smart people hear those voices but refuse to follow them. They keep their eyes on the vision that inspires them, continue taking disciplined action every day, and trust that consistent effort will produce lasting results. By keeping their focus on purpose instead of opinions, they protect their peace, strengthen their determination, and build a life defined by conviction rather than by the changing approval of others. As you move through life, remember this: you cannot control how others behave, but you can always control who you become. Toxic people will always exist, but they do not have to shape your future. Every day you have a choice. You can give your energy to conflict, negativity, and endless approval seeking, or you can invest that same energy in your purpose, your growth, and the life you are determined to build. Choose wisdom over arguments. Choose peace over drama. Choose discipline over emotional reactions. Surround yourself with people who inspire you to become stronger, kinder, and more courageous. Set boundaries without guilt. Walk away from what steals your peace, and never let someone else's bitterness become your identity. Your greatest strength is not your ability to change toxic people. It is your ability to remain true to your values despite them. Every challenge you face is an opportunity to strengthen your character, deepen your resilience, and prove that your future is too valuable to be controlled by someone else's negativity. So leave this moment with a clear decision. Protect your peace. Guard your mind. Stay focused on your purpose. Keep moving forward with confidence, even when others doubt you. Because in the end, the people who build extraordinary lives are not the ones who defeated every toxic person they met. They are the ones who refuse to let toxic people stop them from becoming the person they were created to be. Thank you.